The iron chains around her wrists weighed less than the stares of the men bidding on her life. Today, Lyra would discover that being sold to strangers was not her fate. Something far more dangerous had already claimed her. The morning mist clung to the cobblestones of Ravenshallow's Market Square, where merchants typically hawked grain and cloth. But today's merchandise breathed and bled. Lyra stood on the auction block, her ankles shackled to iron rings embedded in the worn wood, watching shadows move through the crowd like predators circling prey. Debt settlement, the magistrate announced, his voice cutting through the murmur of gathered townsfolk. One female, aged 23 winters. House skills include healing herbs and midwifery. Debt to the crown, 40 silver marks, plus interest. Bidding starts at 20. Lyra kept her chin raised despite the humiliation burning through her veins. 3 months ago, her father had died with debts she never knew existed, gambling losses to the crown's tax collectors. The law was clear. Children inherited both assets and obligations. With no assets to speak of, she had become the obligation. 25, called a voice from the crowd. Lyra's stomach turned. She recognized him, Garrett, who ran the mining camps north of town. His workers rarely lasted a season. 30, another voice chimed in. This one belonged to a merchant she didn't recognize, his clothes marking him as foreign. The way he appraised her made her skin crawl, like she was livestock at a fair. Her younger brother, Finn, pushed through the crowd despite her earlier pleas for him to stay away. At 16, he was all gangly limbs and desperate fury. "This is wrong," he shouted. "She's done nothing. The debt wasn't even hers." The magistrate's guards moved toward Finn, and Lyra's heart hammered. "Please," she called out, breaking her silence. "He's just a boy. Let him go." 35. Garrett increased his bid, grinning. "She's got spirit. That's good." The foreign merchant countered quickly. 40. Lyra felt her hope drain away. 40 silver marks the full debt. Whoever won now would own her completely. She searched the crowd for a friendly face, anyone who might help, but found only eager spectators enjoying the morning's entertainment. Some whispered about her mother, how she'd been strange, how she'd died birthing Finn under a blood moon. They said such women passed down curses. 45. Garrett called out, determined now. 50. The merchant responded smoothly. The bidding war continued. Each increase another nail in the coffin of her freedom. 55, 60, 70. The amount climbed beyond reason, beyond what any servant's contract was worth. The crowd grew quiet, sensing something unusual in the fervor of the bidding. Then, a new voice cut through the square like a blade through silk. 200 silver marks. The crowd parted like water, and Lyra saw him. He stood taller than any man present, dressed in dark leather that couldn't hide the dangerous grace of his movements. His hair was black as winter nights, his eyes an unsettling amber that seemed to glow in the morning light. But it was his presence that made everyone step back, something primitive and predatory that made civilized people remember they were once prey animals. 200? The magistrate's voice cracked. "Sir, that's insufficient?" The stranger stepped forward, and Lyra noticed how even the guards shifted nervously. 300 then. The impossible sum hung in the air like thunder before lightning. 300 silver marks, enough to buy a small estate, enough to feed a family for years. Garrett's face went pale, then red with fury. The foreign merchant stepped back, shaking his head in disbelief. "Sir," the magistrate stammered, "the debt is only 40 marks. Surely you understand." "I understand perfectly." The stranger's voice held an accent Lyra couldn't place, something ancient and wild. "The woman. Name your price, or accept mine." Lyra's legs trembled. No one paid such sums for a debtor. She studied the stranger more carefully, noting the way shadows seemed to bend around him, how the morning light caught strange silver markings on his exposed forearms. Scars or tattoos she couldn't tell. "Sold," the magistrate declared hastily, as if afraid the stranger might change his mind. For 300 silver marks to Lord Kyle Shadowmere, the stranger supplied, producing a leather pouch that hit the collection table with a weight that made everyone flinch. Count it if you must. I'll be taking my purchase now. My lord, the magistrate fumbled with the shackle's keys. There are papers to sign, protocols. Kale moved faster than Lyra's eyes could follow. One moment he stood by the payment table, the next he was beside her on the platform. He gripped the chains between her wrists and pulled. The iron links snapped like winter twigs. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The guards reached for their swords but stopped when Kyle's amber eyes fixed on them. Something passed between them. Some primitive understanding that this was not a man to challenge. The woman comes with me, Kale said softly, but his words carried to every corner of the square. Unless someone objects, silence stretched taut as a bowstring. Even Garrett, red-faced and furious, said nothing. Kale turned to Lyra, and for the first time, their eyes met properly. Up close, she could see flecks of gold in the amber, like fires burning in honey. His expression shifted, something flickering across his features: surprise, recognition. Before she could identify it, his face returned to cold authority. Can you walk? His voice was gentler, meant for her alone. Lyra nodded, not trusting her voice. When she stepped forward, her ankle twisted where the shackle had rubbed it raw. She stumbled, and his hand shot out to steady her. The moment his skin touched hers, electricity raced up her arm. Not painful, but alive, like touching lightning caught in a bottle. He pulled back as if burned, his eyes widening slightly. Then he did something that shocked everyone, including Lyra. He knelt before her on the platform, examining her injured ankle with unexpected tenderness. "You're hurt," he murmured, and she heard anger threading through his words. Not at her, but at the injury itself, at those who had caused it. "It's nothing," Lyra managed, acutely aware of the crowd watching. "Finn!" She suddenly remembered, searching for her brother. She found him held back by two townspeople, his face wet with tears of rage and relief. "The boy," Kale observed, following her gaze. "Your blood?" "My brother. Please. He has no one else. He'll be provided for." Kale rose smoothly, addressing the crowd. "The boy Finn is under my protection. Anyone who touches him answers to me." He paused, letting the threat settle. "Anyone who harbors thoughts of revenge against him or his sister will discover why the old stories warn against angering the Shadowmere line." Sio Mares. The crowd shrank back at the name's full weight. Kale's mount stood at the square's edge, a massive black destrier that seemed crafted from midnight itself. The horse's eyes held an unsettling intelligence, tracking Lyra's approach with something beyond animal awareness. "You'll ride with me," Kale said, his tone brooking no argument. "My estate is a day's journey north, through the Thornwood." The Thornwood. Lyra's blood chilled. No one entered those dark forests willingly. Stories spoke of travelers who ventured beneath those twisted trees and emerged changed if they emerged at all. Some claimed to hear wolf songs on the full moon, enormous beasts that walked on two legs and spoke in human voices. "I can walk," she said, though her ankle throbbed. "No." He swung onto the destrier with fluid grace, then extended his hand. "You're injured, exhausted, and underfed. You'll ride." When she hesitated, he added more softly, "I paid a fortune for you, but not to harm you. You have my word, you're under my protection now." Protection or possession? Lyra wondered, but she had little choice. She took his hand, that same electric sensation sparking between them. He lifted her, as if she weighed nothing, settling her sideways in front of him, her back against his chest. The crowd parted as they rode through, whispers following in their wake. Lyra caught fragments. "The Shadowmere Lord hasn't been seen in years, they say. His family is cursed." Once beyond the town's borders, Kale increased their pace. The destrier's gait was smooth, but Lyra couldn't relax. She was intensely aware of Kale's presence, his arm around her waist to keep her steady, the warmth radiating from his body, despite the cool morning, the steady rhythm of his breathing. Why? She finally asked as they approached the forest's edge. Why what? His voice rumbled through his chest into her back. Why pay so much? Why save me? He was quiet long enough that she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, carefully, as if selecting each word, the magistrate is corrupt. Those men would have worked you to death within a season. Such waste offends me. So you bought me out of principle? Would you prefer Garrett's mining camps? I'd prefer freedom. Freedom. He made a sound that might have been a laugh. None of us are truly free. We all serve something: laws, debts, nature itself. They entered the thornwood, and the temperature dropped immediately. Ancient trees pressed close, their branches forming a canopy so thick that noon felt like twilight. Strange sounds echoed from the depths, not quite animal, not quite wind. Don't look into the shadows too long, Kale warned. The forest shows you things that aren't there, or things that shouldn't be there. As if responding to his words, Lyra glimpsed movement between the trees, forms that loped alongside them, keeping pace with the horse. She started to turn her head for a better look, when Kale's hand gently caught her chin, keeping her gaze forward. Don't, he said quietly. They're curious about you, but acknowledgement is invitation. What are they? Guardians, watchers, ancient things that remember when humans feared the dark for good reason. A howl rose in the distance, long and mournful, and was answered by another, then another, until the forest filled with savage song. The destrier's ears flicked, but showed no fear. Your horse, Lyra said, desperate for distraction from the supernatural chorus. It's unusual. Shadowstep is of old blood, like his master. Kale's arm tightened slightly around her, as something large crashed through the underbrush nearby. We're almost through the worst of it, Propolis. Your estate is really beyond this forest? My estate requires the forest's protection. There are those who would harm what I protect, so I ensure they must brave the thornwood first. Shadowmere Estate emerged from the forest like something from legend. The massive stone structure seemed to grow from the mountain itself, all dark granite and impossible spires that pierced the clouded sky. Gardens surrounded it, but not the manicured kind. Lyra knew these were wild, beautiful, and somehow deliberate in their chaos. Welcome to your new home, Kale said as they rode through gates that opened without visible hands. My prison, you mean, if you choose to see it that way. He dismounted, then helped her down, his hands lingering on her waist a moment longer than necessary. But prisons don't usually come with libraries, healers' gardens, and freedom to roam the grounds. They do when the prisoner cost 300 silver marks. His amber eyes flashed with something: hurt, anger. You're not a prisoner, Lyra. You're under a contract of service. What service? She stepped back, suddenly wary. What exactly did you buy me for? Before he could answer, the estate's doors opened and a woman emerged, older, elegant, with steel-gray hair and knowing eyes. She looked between them with an expression of profound relief mixed with concern. Kale, she said. You found her. Found? Lyra looked between them. You were looking for me specifically? Kyle shot the woman a warning look. Lyra, this is Mirren, my estate's keeper. She'll show you to your quarters and explain your duties. My lord. Mirren curtsied slightly, though her eyes never left Lyra. The room is prepared, as you requested. The healing supplies have been laid out. Healing supplies? Lyra's professional instinct stirred. Someone's injured? You are, Kale said. Your ankle needs proper tending. You're also malnourished and exhausted. Mirren will see you're fed and rested. And then? And then? Then we discuss why you're here. He turned to leave, paused. The full moon is in 3 nights. Until then, you're to rest and recover. Do not venture into the forest alone. Do not leave the estate grounds after dark. And he hesitated, If you hear howling in the night, do not look out your window. Before Lyra could respond, he strode away, leaving her with Mirren. Come, child, the older woman said kindly. You look ready to drop. Mirren led her through corridors, lined with portraits all dark-haired, amber-eyed figures who shared Kale's dangerous beauty. Painting. Some paintings seemed centuries old, yet the resemblance was unmistakable. His family? Lyra asked. The Shadowmere line is ancient, Mirren replied carefully. They've protected these lands since before the kingdom existed. Protected from what? Mirren didn't answer, instead opening a door to reveal quarters that stole Lyra's breath. The room was luxurious, a massive bed with silk hangings, a fireplace already crackling, shelves lined with books and healing supplies. Windows overlooked the wild gardens, and beyond them, the thornwood. This can't be for me, Lyra said. The Lord was specific. You're to have everything you need. Mirren moved to a wardrobe, revealing gowns that looked sized for Lyra. These were prepared in advance. How? He couldn't have known the magistrate would auction me today. Mirren's smile was mysterious. The Lord has his ways. Now, let's tend that ankle. As Mirren worked, her hands gentle and skilled, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that she'd stepped into something larger than a simple debt settlement. Kinda die. The way Kale had looked at her, the woman saying he'd found her, the elaborate preparations. Mirren, she said quietly, what am I really doing here? The older woman's hands stilled. That's for the Lord to explain. But know this, you're safer here than anywhere else in the kingdom. There are forces at work, old bargains and older magic. The Lord has spent years searching. She cut herself off. Searching for what? Rest now, Mirren said, rising. Dinner will be brought to you. Tomorrow, you'll begin to understand. That night, Lyra lay in the too-soft bed, listening to the night sounds of the estate. And then, as Kyle had warned, the howling began. Not distant like in the forest, but close. So close it seemed to come from within the estate's walls. 3 days passed in strange routine. Lyra woke to elaborate breakfasts, spent mornings exploring the vast library, afternoons in the healer's garden, learning herbs she'd never seen before. Kale remained absent, though she occasionally glimpsed him from windows, always at a distance, always watching the forest's edge as if expecting something. On the third night, as the full moon rose, everything changed. Lyra had retired early, unsettled by the estate's tension. Even Mirren seemed nervous, checking the locks twice, ensuring the windows were latched. Stay in your room tonight, she'd warned. No matter what you hear. But just past midnight, pain erupted through Lyra's body, like nothing she'd ever experienced. Not the sharp agony of injury, but something deeper, as if her bones were trying to reshape themselves. She fell from the bed, gasping, her skin burning with fever. The door burst open. Kale stood there, his amber eyes wide with shock. No, he breathed. It's too soon. You haven't been. Another wave of pain crashed through her, and she screamed. Kale crossed to her in 2 strides, gathering her into his arms. Listen to me, he said urgently. You're transforming. I don't know how it should be impossible, but you need to fight it. Transforming? She gasped between waves of agony. The wolf, he said. It's trying to emerge, but you're not ready. You haven't been properly turned. This could kill you. Wolf? But before she could process this impossibility, her vision shifted. Colors became sharper. Scents overwhelmed her. Kale smelled of pine and storm and something wild. She could hear his heartbeat, rapid and concerned. Look at me, he commanded, his hands cupping her face. Focus on my voice. You need to stay human tonight. What? Her question became a howl, ripping from her throat. Her hands, pressed against his chest, sprouted claws that tore through his shirt. Mirren, Kyle shouted. The suppressant, now. The older woman appeared with a vial of silvery liquid. My lord, if she's naturally turning, she can't be. It's impossible. But even as he spoke, Kale stared at Lyra with dawning realization. Unless... Lyra's body convulsed, bones cracking audibly. The pain was beyond description, beyond endurance. She felt herself fragmenting, human and wolf warring within her. Hold her, Mirren instructed, forcing the vial to Lyra's lips. The liquid burned like liquid moonlight, and suddenly the transformation reversed, leaving her gasping and human in Kale's arms. What? She panted. What's happening to me? Kale's expression was tortured. You're one of us. But that should be impossible. You were born human, raised human. Unless, he looked at Mirren, her mother, the one who died during the blood moon. The rumors were true then, Mirren whispered. She was Pack. Pack? Lyra struggled to focus through the exhaustion. What are you talking about? We're werewolves, Kale said simply. The Shadowmere line has protected the balance between human and wolf for centuries. And you're apparently born of both worlds. Lyra wanted to laugh at the absurdity, but the lingering pain, the memory of claws sprouting from her fingers, made denial impossible. That's insane. Is it? You felt the wolf, you heard its call. Kale's thumb traced her cheekbone gently. Your mother was one of us. She left the pack to live among humans, to hide what she was. But blood calls to blood, and the full moon awakens what lies dormant. Why did you really buy me? The pieces were falling together. You knew what I was. I suspected. There were signs you're sent, the way the forest responded to you. I've been searching for others of our kind who were lost, hidden among humans. The pack is dying, Lyra. We need every wolf we can find. So you bought me to breed? Anger flared through her exhaustion. No! The vehemence in his voice surprised them both. I bought you to protect you. Garrett and that merchant, they work for hunters. They target those with wolf blood, even dormant. They would have discovered what you were, eventually, and then. Hunters? Humans who know we exist and seek to destroy us. They've developed weapons, poisons that prevent our healing. The kingdom secretly funds them. His jaw clenched. Your magistrate marks potential wolves for them. That's why the auction happened. You were bait. The revelation staggered her. Finn. Is he? Possibly. We'll know when he comes of age. He's safe at the estate's border house with a guardian family. The next morning brought revelations and danger in equal measure. Lyra woke to find Kale seated beside her bed, dark circles under his eyes, suggesting he'd kept vigil all night. How do you feel? His voice was rough with exhaustion. Quote, like I've been trampled by horses. She sat up carefully. Was last night real? Very real. He studied her intently. The suppressant will keep the wolf dormant for now, but it's temporary. Power. You'll need to learn control, or the next full moon could tear you apart. Comforting. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I've never been accused of comfort. The smile vanished. We have a problem. The hunters know you're here. How? A messenger arrived at dawn. They're demanding your return, claiming the sale was illegal since you're contaminated. He spat the last word. They're giving me 3 days to comply. Or they'll storm the estate with silver weapons and holy fire. He stood, pacing. They've done it before. Entire packs slaughtered. Then return me. The words hurt to say, but Lyra couldn't bear the thought of others dying for her. Kale whirled on her, eyes flashing gold. Never. The word came out as a growl. You're Pack now. We don't abandon our own. I'm not Pack. I'm just a woman who apparently has wolf blood. You're more than that. He moved closer, and that electric sensation sparked between them again. The moment I scented you in that square, I knew. My wolf knew. Knew what? He seemed to struggle with the words. There are bonds among our kind. Recognition between wolves that transcends human understanding. You're not just Pack, Lyra. You're... A knock interrupted him. My lord. Mirren's voice was urgent. We have a situation. They found chaos in the main hall. A young man lay on the floor, his body convulsing, black veins spreading from a wound on his shoulder. Lyra recognized the symptoms immediately: poison, but unlike any she'd known. Silverthorn poison, Mirren explained. The hunter's newest weapon. It prevents our healing, causes the wolf to turn on itself. He's dying, another pack member said. Just like the others. Others? Lyra knelt beside the injured man, her healer's instincts overriding everything else. 5 pack members in the last month, Kale said grimly. The hunters are getting bolder. Lyra examined the wound, noting the strange crystalline formations around the entry point. Something about it seemed familiar. I need my supplies from the healing garden. And, she hesitated, I need moonstone extract. That's lethal to wolves, Mirren protested. In large doses, yes, but in tiny amounts, combined with wolfsbane and silver nitrate, it might neutralize the poison by tricking it into attacking itself instead of the host. Lyra met Kale's eyes. Trust me. He nodded once. Get her everything she needs. For the next hour, Lyra worked with intense focus, mixing compounds that shouldn't work together, following instincts she didn't fully understand. The pack gathered to watch, murmuring doubtfully. This is impossible, someone said. No one has ever cured silverthorn poisoning. She's not just anyone, Kale said quietly, his faith in her absolute. When Lyra finally administered the antidote, the results were immediate. The black veins began receding. The man's breathing steadied, and his wounds started closing with werewolf healing speed. How? Mirren breathed. How did you know? I don't know, Lyra admitted. It was like something inside me recognized the poison's nature and knew how to counter it. Your mother, Kale said suddenly. She was our pack's healer before she left. This knowledge, it's in your blood. Genetic memory? Lyra shook her head. That's not possible. Neither is a dormant wolf awakening without being bitten, yet here you are. Kale took her hands, ignoring the gathered pack. You're the answer we've been searching for. A healer who can cure what the hunters create. Plus, the hunters won't stand for this, Mirren warned. If they learn she can neutralize their weapons, Peasel, then we'll be ready for them. Kale's expression turned predatory. Send word to the hunters, tell them they can come for her if they dare. But they should know the pack has a new healer, one whose bite might be worse than her bark. Despite everything, Lyra laughed at the terrible joke. When she looked up, she found the entire pack staring at her with something approaching awe. She'd saved one of their own, proved herself valuable beyond measure. Welcome to the pack, someone said, and others echoed it. The attack came 2 nights later, sooner than expected. Lyra woke to the sound of shattering glass and inhuman howls. The estate was under siege. She dressed quickly in the leather pants and tunic. Mirren had provided proper pack attire and rushed toward the sounds of battle. The main courtyard was chaos. Hunters in black armor wielded silver weapons and threw vials of liquid fire. Pack members in wolf form fought savagely, but several already lay wounded. Kale stood at the center in human form, wielding twin blades with lethal grace. His movements were hypnotic, deadly, and beautiful, but he was outnumbered. Without thinking, Lyra grabbed a medical kit and ran into the fray. A hunter turned toward her, raising a silver-tipped crossbow. Time seemed to slow. She could see his fingers squeezing the trigger, could calculate the arrow's trajectory toward her heart. Then Kael was there, taking the arrow meant for her. It pierced his shoulder, and he roared in pain as the silver poison began spreading immediately. No, Lyra caught him as he staggered. The poison was moving faster than before, more virulent. They've improved the formula. Get to safety. Kael gasped, his body already beginning to convulse. Not a chance. She dragged him behind an overturned table, her hands already working to extract the arrow. The wound was worse than anything she'd treated. The poison eating through tissue like acid. Around them, the battle raged, but all Lyra could focus on was Kael. She worked frantically, mixing antidotes from the supplies in her kit, but nothing was working. The black veins were spreading across his chest, toward his heart. Lyra, he whispered, his amber eyes flickering. Let me go. Save yourself. Shut up. Tears burned her eyes as she worked. I won't lose you. Why? His hand found hers, weak but warm. Why do you care? The answer came without thought. Because you're mine. The words triggered something primal. Suddenly, Lyra could feel Kale's heartbeat, as if it were her own, could sense the poison, like a living thing inside him. And more, she could feel the solution, not in her mind, but in her very soul. Without hesitation, she bit her own wrist, drawing blood, and pressed it to his lips. Drink. His eyes widened in shock, but the wolf in him responded instinctively. As her blood entered his system, she felt their connection explode into existence, a bond that transcended physical, something ancient and unbreakable. The poison recoiled from their combined essence. Lyra's dormant wolf rose to meet Kale's, and together they burned the toxin away. But the effort cost her. She felt her strength draining, her life force pouring into him. Lyra, stop. Kale tried to pull away, but she held him firm. Trust me. She pressed closer, and in that moment of connection, she saw into his memories, centuries of loneliness, the burden of leadership, and underneath it all, a desperate longing for exactly what they were sharing now. The poison finally broke, fleeing Kale's system entirely. He surged to his feet, fully healed and radiating power. His eyes were pure gold now, his wolf fully present. When he looked at Lyra, swaying from blood loss, something possessive and protective blazed in his expression. You bonded us, he said, wonder and worry warring in his voice. Do you understand what you've done? Saved your life? Tied our souls together. Among our kind, blood sharing creates an unbreakable mate bond. We're connected now, forever. Before Lyra could respond, a hunter's blade swept toward her. Kale moved impossibly fast, his partial transformation instantaneous. One moment he was human, the next something in between, claws extended, fangs bared, moving with supernatural speed. The hunter didn't stand a chance. Anyone who touches her dies. Kale's voice was barely human, carrying across the battlefield with alpha authority. The remaining hunters faltered. They'd come expecting to fight wolves. They hadn't expected to face a fully bonded alpha pair, something that hadn't existed in generations. Retreat, their leader called. But Kale was already moving, Lyra forgotten in his protective rage. Stop him. Mirren appeared beside Lyra, supporting her weakening form. He'll slaughter them all and bring the kingdom's full wrath upon us. Only you can reach him now. Lyra understood. The bond she'd created went both ways. She could feel Kale's fury, his wolf's need to eliminate all threats to his mate, Powerses. But she could also feel the man underneath, struggling for control. Kale, she called, putting all her remaining strength into the word. He froze mid-strike, turning toward her. The gold in his eyes flickered. Come back to me, she whispered, and collapsed. Lyra drifted in and out of consciousness for 2 days. In her lucid moments, she was aware of Kale's constant presence, his hand holding hers, his voice speaking soft words in the old tongue, his distress pulsing through their new bond like a second heartbeat. When she finally woke fully, she found him asleep in a chair beside her bed, looking haggard. Dark stubble shadowed his jaw, and his clothes were rumpled as if he hadn't changed them since the battle. She tried to sit up quietly, but the moment she moved, his eyes snapped open, pure amber, alert, intense. You're awake. Relief flooded his features. How do you feel? Alive, which is surprising. She touched her wrist where she'd bitten it. The wound had healed completely, leaving only faint silver scars. The bond. I can feel you. And I you. He moved to sit on the bed's edge, careful not to crowd her. You nearly died. The blood loss. combined with forcing our bond before your wolf was ready. Mirren said it should have killed you, but it didn't. No. His hand covered hers. You're stronger than any of us realized. But Lyra, what you did. Do you understand the implications? We're connected, permanently. More than connected. Among our kind, mate bonds are sacred. They can't be broken except by death. You'll feel what I feel, know when I'm in danger. Eventually, our wolves will sink completely. You've bound yourself to me and my pack forever. Do you regret it? She had to ask. His laugh was rough. Regret having my mate? The one my wolf recognized from the first moment? Never. His expression grew serious. But you had no choice, no time to consider. I would have courted you properly, given you time to know me, to choose freely. I did choose. Lyra squeezed his hand. Maybe not consciously, but something in me knew. When I saw you dying, nothing else mattered except saving you. My brave healer. He lifted her hand to his lips, kissing each knuckle reverently. My mate. The word sent heat through her that had nothing to do with fever. But before she could respond, Mirren entered with a tea tray and a grim expression. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have a problem. The kingdom has issued a decree. They're demanding Lyra's return, calling her a contaminated threat. If we don't comply within the week, they'll declare the entire Shadowmere line enemies of the crown. Let them come, Kale snarled. Quote, My lord, Mirren said carefully. They have weapons we've never seen. The hunters who attacked were just the vanguard. Our spies report they're mobilizing the royal army, equipped with silver cannons and something called moonbane, a poison that prevents transformation entirely. Then we run, Lyra said. Both Kale and Mirren turned to her in surprise. We take the pack and go north, beyond the kingdom's reach, Cumminged. Abandon our ancestral home? Kale's jaw clenched. To survive? Yes. Lyra sat up straighter. I can feel it through our bond, your need to protect the pack. This isn't about territory. It's about family. Quote, The northern territories are wild, Mirren warned. Unclaimed by any pack. The wolves there have gone feral. Then we claim them, Lyra said with sudden certainty. Unite the scattered wolves under one alpha. Kale stared at her with something approaching awe. You're thinking like a Luna already. A what? The alpha's mate. The pack's heart. He cupped her face gently. But there's something else. The bond we share? It's incomplete. Lyra's pulse quickened. Incomplete how? Incomplete how? You marked me with your blood, created the spiritual bond. But for it to be fully recognized by all wolves, I need to mark you in return. His thumb traced her throat. With my bite. The memory of pain from her partial transformation made her tense. Will it hurt? Not like before. This would be a claiming, not a turning. Your wolf is already present, just dormant. My bite would awaken it fully, give you complete control. And if you don't, the incomplete bond will continue draining you. You'll grow weaker until... He couldn't finish. Then we have no choice. There's always a choice. His eyes searched hers. I won't force this on you. Lyra considered everything: the danger, the transformation, the irreversible change to her life. Then she thought about the connection she felt to KL, to the pack, to a world she never knew existed but felt like home. Do it, she whispered. His eyes flared gold. Are you certain? Instead of answering, she tilted her head, baring her throat in the ultimate gesture of trust. She felt his sharp intake of breath, felt through their bond the way her submission affected him. My brave, beautiful mate, he murmured against her skin. Then his teeth found the junction of her neck and shoulder, and bit down. The bite didn't bring pain, it brought revelation. The moment Kale's teeth pierced her skin, Lyra's dormant wolf surged to life, not in agony but in joy. It was like breathing for the first time, like seeing color after a lifetime of gray. Power flooded through her, ancient and wild. She could feel every member of the pack, sense their locations, their emotions. But more than that, she could feel the very forest itself, every tree, every creature, the ley lines of magic that ran beneath the earth. When Kael pulled back, licking the wound to seal it, his eyes were wide with shock. Lyra, your eyes. What about them? They're silver. I've never seen. He helped her to a mirror. Her reflection stunned her. Her brown eyes had transformed to pure silver, almost luminescent. The bite mark on her neck wasn't the brutal wound she expected, but an elegant pattern that looked almost like a tattoo, a crescent moon intertwined with thorns. Quote, "You're not just a wolf," Mirren gasped from the doorway. "You're a moon blessed. The prophecy, when silver eyes meet golden gaze, the scattered packs shall unite their ways." Prophecy. Lyra and Kael said in unison. Mirren's hands trembled as she poured tea. An ancient foretelling. The first Luna was moon-blessed, able to sense all wolves, not just her pack. She could heal any wound, break any curse. Power. But the gift was lost centuries ago, when the pack scattered. She looked at Lyra with reverence. "Until now." "That's impossible," Lyra protested. But even as she spoke, she could feel it, threads of connection stretching beyond the estate, touching lone wolves throughout the kingdom and beyond. A commotion outside drew their attention. Through the window, they could see riders approaching under a white flag, royal messengers. "Stay here," Kael commanded, but Lyra followed anyway, her new instincts refusing to let her alpha face danger alone. The messenger was young, nervous, clearly aware he stood among predators. "Lord Shadowmere, I bring terms from the crown." "Speak," quote, "the king offers a bargain. Return the woman Lyra for examination. If she proves untainted, she'll be freed. If not, she'll be contained for the kingdom's safety. You have 3 days to comply, or the estate will be razed. And if we refuse?" Kael's voice was dangerously calm. "Then every wolf in the kingdom will be hunted down. The king has issued silver coins to any citizen who brings him a wolf's head. The purge has already begun in the eastern provinces." Lyra felt Kael's rage through their bond, but also his anguish. His pack or his mate, an impossible choice. "We accept," Lyra said, stepping forward. "Lyra, no!" Kael turned on her, eyes blazing. "Trust me." She touched their bond, sending him her certainty. "I need to go." "My mate speaks for the pack," Kael said through gritted teeth. "But know this, messenger, if any harm comes to her, the kingdom will learn why wolves once ruled these lands." After the messenger left, Kael cornered Lyra in their chambers. "Explain." "Now. I can feel them," she said. "Lone wolves throughout the kingdom, frightened, hunted. If I go, I can reach them, unite them. It's suicide." It's, it's necessary." She cupped his face. "The moon blessing isn't just power, it's purpose. I'm meant to gather the scattered packs. Then I'm coming with you." "No. The pack needs their alpha. And I need you to prepare them for what's coming." "What's coming?" Lyra's silver eyes gleamed. "War. But not the kind the kingdom expects. They think they're hunting wolves. They don't realize they're creating an army." That night, as Lyra prepared for her journey to the capital, Kael made love to her with desperate tenderness. Each touch was reverent, each kiss a prayer for her safety. Through their bond, she felt his fear of losing her, his pride in her courage, his absolute devotion. "Come back to me," he whispered against her mark. "Always," she promised. But as dawn broke and she rode toward the capital, Lyra knew this was more than a simple surrender. The moon blessing thrummed in her veins, showing her visions of wolves in chains, packs scattered and broken. The kingdom thought they were examining one contaminated woman. They were about to meet their new Luna, and she had come to claim her scattered people. Purge. The purge the king threatened had already begun. But so had the gathering. Every wolf who sensed her presence, every lone survivor who felt her call, began moving toward the capital. The humans had no idea what they had awakened. The capital's dungeons reeked of silver and fear. Lyra had expected imprisonment, but not the sophisticated cruelty of her cell. Every bar was pure silver, the floor inscribed with symbols that made her wolf recoil, the air thick with wolfsbane smoke. They hadn't examined her yet. For 2 days, they'd left her alone except for guards who watched through a silver-lined window, taking notes on her every movement. They were studying her like an animal in a cage. But Lyra wasn't idle. Through her moon blessing, she could sense every wolf in the capital servants hiding their nature, prisoners in other cells, even a few among the nobility who'd buried their heritage so deep they'd forgotten it themselves. Soon, she whispered through the connections. Be ready. On the third day, they brought her to the throne room in silver chains. The court was assembled, nobles in their finery, hunters in their black armor, and on the throne, a king who looked far too young for the cruelty in his eyes. Contaminated woman, King Aldrich announced. Lyra of Ravenshallow, you stand accused of werewolf corruption. I stand accused of existing, Lyra corrected, her silver eyes sweeping the room. Several courtiers stepped back. Insolence. The royal advisor, a thin man named Lord Blackwood, stepped forward. Your Majesty, look at her eyes. She's fully turned. She should be executed immediately. Not yet, the king said. First, we understand. How did a nobody from a nothing town become this? Our hunters report you can heal their poisons, that you bonded with the Shadowmere Alpha. Such things should be impossible. Nothing is impossible, Your Majesty. Your kingdom has simply chosen ignorance over understanding. Then educate us. The king leaned forward. Show us what you are. It was a trap. But Lyra smiled anyway. Very well. She closed her eyes and let her wolf rise, not in transformation, but in presence. Her silver eyes blazed with inner light when she opened them, and every wolf in the throne room felt her call. A servant dropped his tray with a crash, his own eyes flashing gold. A noblewoman gasped, her hidden nature responding. Even among the hunters, 2 men staggered, their long-suppressed wolves awakening. What is this? The king stood, alarmed. The truth, Lyra said. Wolves aren't invaders or infections. We've always been here, woven into the fabric of your kingdom. Your servants, your soldiers, even your noble houses. You're not fighting a disease, you're fighting your own people. Lies, Lord Blackwood snarled, but his protest was cut short, as the noble woman, Lady Catherine, wife to the Treasury Minister, stepped forward. She speaks truth, Your Majesty. Catherine's voice shook. I've hidden my nature for 30 years, but I can't deny what I am. Not with a true Luna calling. Luna? The king's eyes narrowed. The moon blessed, an elderly scholar said, pushing through the crowd. Your Majesty, I've studied the old texts. The Luna isn't just a werewolf, she's their unifier, their heart. If she's truly moon-blessed, killing her won't end the wolves. It will enrage them. Then we use her, the king smiled coldly. She can call them? Good. Let her call every wolf in the kingdom to the capital. We'll eliminate them all at once. Your Majesty, Lyra said, her voice carrying power that made the silver chains creak. You're making a mistake. We don't want war. We want recognition, protection under law, the right to exist without persecution. You want to turn my kingdom into animals. We want to stop pretending we're not part of it. Lyra looked directly at him. Your father knew the truth. He had a treaty with the Pax. Pristine. The king went rigid. You lie. Your father was killed by a silver-poisoned blade, wasn't he? A hunting accident, they said. But wolves don't use silver weapons. Humans who profit from our persecution do. She looked pointedly at Lord Blackwood, who had gone pale. Enough. The king stood. You'll call your wolves here, or I'll have 100 humans killed for every day you refuse. I'll call them, Lyra agreed, making Blackwood smile triumphantly. But not as victims, as witnesses. Before anyone could stop her, She threw back her head and howled, not a human imitation, but a true wolf's call that shattered windows and resonated through stone. It carried beyond the physical, reaching through her moon blessing to every wolf for miles. The response was immediate. Answering howls rose from throughout the capital, hundreds of voices revealing themselves. But more than that, she felt Kale's presence approaching fast. He'd never truly let her go alone. The entire pack had been moving toward the capital, waiting for her signal. "What have you done?" the king demanded. "Given you a choice," Lyra said as the throne room doors burst open, and wolves poured in, not attacking, but surrounding, protecting their Luna. "Accept us as we are, or face the truth that you're outnumbered in your own capital." Chaos erupted in the throne room. Guards drew silver weapons, wolves circled defensively, and nobles screamed in panic. But through it all, Lyra stood calm at the center, her silver eyes blazing with controlled power. "Stand down," she commanded, her voice carrying the authority of the moon blessing. Every wolf froze, even those partially transformed in defensive rage. "We are not monsters. We will not prove their fears right." The king had retreated to his throne, surrounded by hunters. "You've signed your death warrant, woman. Guards, kill them all." But before the guards could act, Kale burst through the stained glass window in full wolf form, massive, midnight black, with eyes like molten gold. He landed between Lyra and the nearest hunter, his growl shaking the very foundations. He shifted to human form, standing protectively before his mate. "Anyone who touches the Luna dies by my teeth." "Kale Shadowmere," the king said. "You've violated the treaty by bringing wolves into my court. You violated it first by hunting our people." Kale's voice carried barely controlled rage. "The treaty my grandfather signed with your father was meant to protect both our peoples. You've turned it into genocide." "Your grandfather?" The elderly scholar stepped forward, ignoring the danger. "Then you're over 200 years old, powered 230, Kale confirmed. "I've served this kingdom since before your great-grandfather was born, Your Majesty. We've fought your wars, guarded your borders, bled for your crown. And this is our reward? Persecution? Chains?" "You're not human," Lord Blackwood interjected. "You're beasts pretending." His words cut off as Lyra's power flared. The silver chains holding her didn't break, they disintegrated, turning to dust. "We're not pretending anything. We're both human and wolf, just as you're both citizen and subject, both individual and community." She stepped forward, and the wolves parted for her. "Your Majesty, I can prove our worth." "Your kingdom faces threats you don't even know about." "What threats?" "The poison your hunters use. Where do you think it comes from?" Lyra looked at Blackwood. "Tell him about your suppliers." Blackwood's face went white. "I don't know what "The Crimson Order," Lyra said, the name coming to her through her moon-blessed awareness. "They're not just providing weapons to hunt wolves. They're using the kingdom as a testing ground for something far worse." The scholar gasped. "The Crimson Order? But their legend. Dark sorcerers who seek to eliminate all magical bloodlines," Kale finished. "Starting with wolves, moving to witches, then anyone with a trace of old blood. Your kingdom is being manipulated into doing their work." "Lies," the king said, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. "Then test it," Lyra challenged. "Examine Blackwood's latest shipment of weapons. You'll find more than silver and wolfsbane. You'll find soul-binding crystals, meant to trap the essence of magical beings. The Order plans to harvest our power, and they're using your fear to do it." The king looked at Blackwood, who was backing toward the door. "Is this true?" "They promised to rid us of the wolf plague," Blackwood burst out. "They said—" He never finished. A crimson bolt of energy struck him from behind, leaving only ash. In the doorway stood figures in red robes, their faces hidden behind masks of polished bone. "The Luna knows too much," one said in a voice like grinding stone. "Eliminate all witnesses." The Crimson Order had revealed themselves, And suddenly, wolves and humans faced a common enemy. "Protect the king!" Lyra shouted. And to everyone's shock, the wolves moved to defend the throne. The battle was brutal. The Order's dark magic clashed against wolf strength and speed. Lyra found herself fighting alongside the very guards who'd imprisoned her healing power keeping them alive as crimson fire rained down. Kael was magnificent in battle, shifting between forms fluidly, his age and experience showing in every lethal move. But there were too many Order members, and their magic was strong. Then Lyra felt it a pull on her moon blessing, showing her what needed to be done. "Everyone to me," she called. Wolves and humans alike gathered around her. She placed her hands on the nearest wolf and human Lady Catherine and a young guard and let her power flow. "Together," she said, "our strength isn't in division, but in unity." Silver light exploded from her, connecting every defender in a web of power. Suddenly, humans could feel the wolves' strength, and wolves could think with human strategy. They moved as one force, devastating in their coordination. The Crimson Order, faced with unified resistance they hadn't expected, began to retreat. "This isn't over," their leader hissed. "The purge will come, with or without this kingdom's help." As the last Order member vanished, an exhausted silence fell over the throne room. Wolves and humans stood side by side, covered in the same battle dust, having bled for the same cause. The king descended from his throne, approaching Lyra and Kael slowly. "You saved my life. Wolves saved human lives. Tale a mention. We saved each other," Lyra corrected. "That's what we could always do, if you'd let us." The great hall had been transformed for the ceremony. Where once silver weapons had lined the walls, now hung banners of unity, the royal crest intertwined with the wolf moon. 3 months had passed since the battle against the Crimson Order. 3 months of negotiations, revelations, and gradual acceptance. Lyra stood before the gathered crowd, no longer in chains, but in a gown of midnight blue that complemented her silver eyes. Beside her, Kael wore the formal attire of a Lord of the Realm, a title officially recognized by the crown for the first time in centuries. "By royal decree," King Aldrich announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall, "the Accords of Unity are hereby signed. Wolves shall be recognized as citizens of the realm, with all rights and protections thereof. The position of Luna is established as advisor to the crown on matters of magical bloodlines." The crowd, a mix of humans and revealed wolves, erupted in celebration. Lyra felt their joy through her moon blessing, a tapestry of relief and hope. "Furthermore," the king continued, "in recognition of their service against the Crimson Order, Lord Kael Shadowmere and Luna Lyra are granted the Northern Territories to establish a sanctuary where all magical bloodlines may find refuge." Kael took Lyra's hand, raising it to his lips. Through their bond, she felt his pride, his love, his vision of their future. "We did it," his thoughts whispered to hers. "We changed everything. We're just beginning," she replied through the bond. Later, in the castle gardens, where moonlight turned everything to silver, Lyra found herself surrounded by unexpected well-wishers. Lady Catherine, now openly wearing the wolfmark pin that identified revealed wolves, embraced her warmly. "You gave me the courage to stop hiding," Catherine said. "My children will grow up in a world where they don't have to choose between their natures." Even Finn had come for the ceremony, now 16, and showing signs of his own wolf heritage. "Sister," he said, still awed by her transformation. "Mother would be proud. She hid what she was to protect us, but you've made it so no one has to hide again." As the celebration continued inside, Lyra slipped away to the battlements, needing a moment of quiet. She found Kael already there, looking out over the capital, where wolves now walked freely alongside humans. "Regrets?" he asked, pulling her against him. "Never, though I sometimes wonder what would have happened if you hadn't bought me that day, Peta." "I would have found you anyway," he said with absolute certainty. The moon blessing called to my wolf from the moment you entered that square, Pi. I just didn't understand what it was telling me. That I was your mate? That you were my everything. He turned her to face him, his golden eyes intense. My mate, my Luna, my salvation? You didn't just save me from silver poison, Lyra. You saved my soul from centuries of loneliness. She kissed him then, pouring all her love through their bond. When they pulled apart, she was laughing. You know what the best part is? What? Garrett's face, when he realized I was worth more than 300 silver marks after all. Kale's laughter echoed across the battlements. You're worth more than the entire kingdom, power. To you, maybe. To everyone. The kingdom just doesn't know it yet. He sobered slightly. The Crimson Order is still out there. This peace, this unity will have to fight to keep it. Then we fight. Together. Lyra's silver eyes gleamed with determination. We have something they don't expect: wolves and humans united, led by a bonded alpha pair. And our children will inherit a better world, Kale said softly, his hand moving to her stomach. Lyra's eyes widened. How did you? I can sense it through our bond. Our wolves know. His joy blazed through their connection. The first cubs born into freedom, not hiding. As if in response to their happiness, howls rose throughout the capital, not of hunt or fear, but of celebration. Wolves announcing the news in the old way, proclaiming that their Luna carried the future. Mirren appeared on the battlements, smiling knowingly. The Northern Territory settlement is ready, my lord, my lady. Your pack awaits. Our pack, Lyra corrected. Every wolf who wants sanctuary, every human who accepts us, every magical being who needs refuge. We're building more than a settlement. We're building hope. 5 years had passed, and the Northern Sanctuary had grown from a single estate to a thriving city where magic and mundane coexisted in harmony. Lyra stood on the council chamber balcony, watching her twin daughters play in the courtyard below, one with her silver eyes, one with Kale's gold, both shifting between human and wolf pup form, as naturally as breathing. The Crimson Order has been spotted near the eastern border, Kale said, joining her. They're testing our defenses again. Let them come, Lyra said calmly. We're not the scattered, frightened people they once hunted. We're united, trained, and we have something they'll never understand: the strength that comes from acceptance, not fear. My fierce Luna, Kyle murmured, nuzzling her neck where his mark still shone silver against her skin. Do you remember when you thought I bought you? You did buy me. 300 silver marks. The best investment I ever made. He wrapped his arms around her as their daughter's laughter rose from below. Though I think you bought me just as much with 2 silver coins worth of kindness to a dying stranger. We bought each other, Lyra decided, leaning back into his warmth, and created something priceless. As the sun set over the northern sanctuary, painting the sky in shades of gold and silver, wolves began their evening song, not howls of loneliness or danger, but of community, of family, of home. The woman who'd been sold to strangers had become so much more. She was Luna, healer, mother, and symbol of a new world where differences were celebrated rather than feared. And in the end, that was worth more than all the silver in the kingdom. She was sold to strangers at the auction, but the Alpha outbid them all. In saving her from servitude, he found his mate. In saving him from poison, she found her destiny. Together, they saved their world.